This happened to me and my friend Kyle 2 summers ago, and to this day, I haven't figured out what exactly we experienced out there. I just know we were being watched every second, and I think someone wanted us to know it. It was late June. Kyle and I had just wrapped up our first year of college and wanted to kick off summer break by getting away for a few days. Nothing big, just a small camping trip. Something cheap, quiet, and disconnected. We picked a place called Dead Timber Ridge. Kind of a creepy name in hindsight, but back then it just sounded rustic. It was a state-owned forest preserve about 3 hours out from where we lived in Oregon. Real quiet, not touristy at all, and the kind of place people only really go to if they re-locals or into off-grid hiking. We packed like just one tent, sleeping bags, some snacks, and a cooler full of drinks. Kyle had just gotten this new drone and wanted to get some wide shots of the forest from above. That was half the reason we picked Dead Timber Ridge. Miles and miles of tall pine trees, valleys, and no cell service, no Wi-Fi, no people. It felt perfect. We got there around 4 p.m., found a small clearing just off one of the less maintained trails, and set up camp. We were maybe a 15-minute hike from the main gravel road, so it felt remote enough without being reckless. The first night was normal. We built a fire, made some food, and just chilled. The forest was eerily quiet though. No wind, barely any birds. It was like the woods were holding their breath or something. I brushed it off. I figured we just weren't used to that kind of silence coming from the city. Around 11 p.m., we turned in. The tent was a 2-man setup, just enough room for us and our gear. We zipped up, got into our bags, and were out within minutes. I remember waking up around 3:30 a.m. to pee. The forest was like I couldn't see more than a foot in front of my face without using my phone flashlight. I stepped out of the tent, walked maybe 10 feet toward a tree, and as I was finishing, I felt something weird. Not heard, felt. It was this heaviness behind me, like someone was watching. My skin prickled all over. I froze for a second, scanning the woods with my light, but there was nothing. No sound, no movement, just black trees and the faint orange glow from the embers of our campfire. I shook it off, went back into the tent, and fell asleep again. The next morning, Kyle said he thought he'd heard something walking around the tent while I was outside. He assumed it was me, but the footsteps were slower, heavier. He said it didn't sound like me peeing, it sounded like someone pacing. I laughed it off, said maybe it was a deer, but I could tell it bugged him. We spent the day exploring a bit through the drone, followed some old trails, and even climbed a rocky overlook to get some decent shots of the forest. When we got back to camp around 5 p.m., we noticed something odd. One of our snacks, this unopened bag of trail mix, was gone. We kept our food in a plastic tub with a latch to keep animals out, and the tub was still latched. Everything else was there, just that one bag missing. I asked Kyle if he took it, but he swore he didn't. We looked around the area, thinking maybe we dropped it or knocked it over. Nothing. Later that night, after dark, the weirdness ramped up. We were sitting by the fire, sipping cheap beer, and just talking about random stuff. I remember Kyle suddenly going quiet and looking off into the woods behind me. I turned around, but there was just blackness. "What?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know, man. I thought I saw something like a shape just there, between the trees. Tall, not moving." I stood up, grabbed my flashlight, and scanned the woods. Nothing. But I had that feeling again, like something was just out of sight, watching us. I told Kyle we were psyching ourselves out, that we weren't used to total silence, total darkness, but inside, I didn't believe it. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Every sound outside the tent felt louder. A crack of twigs, rustling leaves, breathing. At one point, I swear I heard breathing right outside the nylon wall. Slow, steady breathing. I held my own breath to be sure it wasn't just me. Then it stopped. I whispered, "Kyle, are you awake?" Nothing. Again. Quieter. Kyle. Still nothing. I was too scared to unzip the tent. I just stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have, because next thing I knew it was morning. Kyle looked pale, like he hadn't slept a minute. "I heard it too," he said before I could even ask. "Breathing, like someone standing right there." He pointed to the side of the tent where I'd heard it too. We packed up that morning. No discussion. We didn't talk about it. Just packed and left. But here's the part that still messes with me. When we got home, Kyle sent me the drone footage he'd taken on the second day. I was scrubbing through it, looking at some of the wide shots, and about 10 seconds into a clip of us hiking on a ridge, I saw something. Someone in the tree line, maybe 40 feet behind us. A person, not moving, just standing there, half hidden by the trees. We never saw them in person, never heard them, but they were there, watching us every second. After seeing that figure in the drone footage, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was just there, buried in the tree, so easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. A dark shape, almost blending into the bark. You could make out the outline of a human form, like someone wearing dark clothes. No movement, no gesture, just there. I called Kyle immediately. Did you see it? He didn't even have to ask what I was talking about. He'd seen it too. In fact, he told me he'd found a second clip later that same day, where the figure appeared again. He sent it to me, and I watched in silence. This time, we were setting up the drone for another shot near the camp. In the background, between two trees, you could clearly see a head, just a head, peeking out from behind the trunk. It was subtly easy to mistake for a knot in the wood if you weren't paying attention, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Eyes. I swear to God, the thing had eyes, wide and fixed, watching us. After that, Kyle and I made a pact not to tell anyone, not because we were afraid they wouldn't believe us, but because we couldn't even understand what we were looking at ourselves. It didn't make sense. If someone had been stalking us in the woods, why didn't they do anything? Why didn't we ever hear them approach or leave? A week passed. I tried moving on, focusing on work and life, but the whole experience had me on edge. I started keeping the blinds closed in my apartment. I slept with my phone, flashlight under my pillow. Paranoia, maybe, but I couldn't shake the sense that something had followed us back. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Not from a dream, just a jolt, like my body knew something wasn't right. My apartment was silent, except for the soft hum of the fridge, but there was a sound, something faint. I stayed still and listened harder. It was clicking, soft, deliberate, clicking, like someone was tapping a fingernail against glass. I slowly got out of bed and walked over to my window. I live on the 3rd floor, so I wasn't expecting anything, but when I pulled back the curtain, I froze. Someone was standing down in the parking lot, alone. No car, no movement, just standing directly under the streetlight, looking upright at my window. I couldn't see their face clearly, but they were wearing something dark. Black hoodie maybe. Their posture didn't make sense. Completely rigid, arms straight at their sides, and then the light flickered. For half a second, the entire parking lot went dark, and when the light came back on, whoever it was gone. No footsteps, no car driving off, nothing. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat on my couch, all the lights on, waiting for the sun to come up. The next day, I went straight to Kyle's place and told him everything. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he pulled out his phone. He had a photo on his camera roll that made my stomach drop. It was a still frame from the drone footage again. He had adjusted the brightness and contrast. You could see the figure's head more clearly now. It wasn't just someone peeking out. The eyes were wrong, too wide, too far apart, and the skin, what little we could make out, looked pale, like grayish. I think it followed us, Kyle said. I think it's still watching. I didn't want to believe it. I told him it could have just been someone messing with us in the woods, or even a trick of the light in the drone footage. But then Kyle said something that chilled me to my core. I saw it last night too. He explained that around 3 a.m. he'd gotten up to get water, and when he passed by his kitchen window, there was someone standing at the edge of his backyard, just beyond the fence. He lives in a rural area, so there's no real neighbors, no reason for someone to be out there. The person didn't move, didn't walk away, just stood there in the dark. He said he turned the porch light on, and when he looked again, they were gone. Same story. No noise, no running, just vanished. That night, Kyle came to crash at my place. Neither of us wanted to be alone anymore. We tried to act normal, watched movies, ate junk food, but we both kept glancing at the window, listening, waiting. Around 2:45 a.m., the clicking sound came back. Tap, tap, tap. But this time, it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from inside the apartment. We both jumped up. Kyle grabbed a flashlight, and I grabbed the metal bat I keep near the couch. The tapping continued slow, methodical. It sounded like it was coming from the bathroom. I crept toward the door, heart racing. I reached out, turned the knob slowly and pushed it open. Nothing. The bathroom was empty. But then, behind the shower curtain, we both heard it. Breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. Kyle yanked the curtain back, and nothing. Just the tiled wall and empty tub. But on the mirror above the sink, there was something written. A single word, fogged into the glass like someone had used their breath to write it. Watching me both stood there, frozen. The mirror hadn't fogged up while we were in there. No one had showered. It was cold and dry, but the word was clearly there, like it had been waiting for us to find it. Kyle grabbed his bag and said, "We're leaving." Now, we left the apartment that night. We drove until morning, just heading north, not saying much. Ended up crashing at his cousin's place a few towns over. Didn't tell them anything, just said we needed to get away for a few days. That was the last time we saw any sign of it, but I still feel it sometimes. Like when I'm alone at night and the house is too quiet, like something is just out of view, watching, waiting. And the worst part, sometimes I think it's not watching me anymore. Sometimes I think it's already inside. It's been over a month since Kyle and I left town. We've been laying low, staying in different motels, small towns, anywhere with people around anywhere. We can blend in and avoid long stretches of quiet. But even in the crowds, even with noise all around, I still catch myself turning around every few minutes, feeling eyes on me. Paranoia, maybe, but Kyle says he feels it too. That constant itch at the back of your neck, like something is right behind you, like you're never quite alone, even in the silence. It got worse last week. We'd been staying in a small roadside motel outside Albany, one of those dusty, wood-paneled places with paper-thin walls and faded carpet that smells like mildew. It wasn't ideal, but it was cheap, and we figured it would only be for a couple of nights. Kyle had gone out to grab us some food, and I was alone in the room. I was scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the flickering light in the bathroom. It had been doing that since we got there when I noticed something odd. I'd taken a few selfies the night before, not something I usually do, but I wanted to send one to my sister to let her know I was all right. I opened one of the pictures, and I froze. In the background, through the half-open motel curtain, you could see the parking lot, and standing there, almost hidden behind a rusted car, was a figure, dark clothing, barely lit, facing the window, facing me. At first, I thought it might have been Kyle. Maybe he was playing some kind of messed up joke. But when I checked the timestamp, it was 3:12 a.m. Kyle had been asleep on the other bed. I remembered because I could hear him snoring. I zoomed in, the face, if you could even call it, that looked wrong. Blurry, like it hadn't fully formed, like it wasn't supposed to be seen through a lens. The eyes were wide, and they glowed faintly, not from a light, not from reflection, from something else, from within. I deleted the picture. I know that sounds crazy, but I had to. The longer I looked at it, the worse I felt, like it was watching me through the screen. Like the longer I stared at that photo, the more real it became. When Kyle got back, I didn't tell him at first. I didn't want to freak him out, but later that night, he brought it up himself. "I think it's here again," he said. "Last night, I thought I heard it scratching at the window." We checked. The glass looked clean, but when I bent down to look closely, I noticed something near the edge, 3 small marks etched into the surface. Not like a crack, more like claw marks, thin, sharp, fresh. We left that motel before the sun came up. The next place we stayed was a cheap Airbnb, middle of nowhere, small cabin surrounded by woods. The host said it was peaceful, secluded, perfect for people who need to unplug. We didn't want secluded, we wanted safe, but we were out of money, out of options. And honestly, the first night there, everything was quiet. Too quiet, no traffic. No dogs barking, just wind through the trees. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that mirror in my apartment, the word watching, and the figure in the parking lot photo. I got up around 2:30 a.m. and stepped outside to get some air. The porch was damp from the night fog, and the woods were silent. Not even the chirp of a cricket. And then I heard it again, that clicking sound. But this time, it wasn't fingernails. It was a camera shutter. Click, dot, click, dot, click. I turned slowly, and just past the tree line, maybe 30 or 40 feet away, there was a flash of light, like a camera going off. Then, another, and another. No sound of footsteps, no movement, just flashes. I called out, "Who's there?" But there was no response, just silence. Then, one more flash, then nothing. I backed into the cabin, locked the door, and pulled all the blinds shut. I didn't tell Kyle right away. What was I supposed to say? That someone or something was taking pictures of us from the woods. The next morning, Kyle was gone. I woke up to his bed empty, the front door wide open. No note, no call, nothing. His phone was still on the nightstand. I ran outside, calling his name. No response. I checked the driveway. Our car was still there. No footprints, no tire marks, just ... nothing. I searched for hours, called the police. They said it was a domestic issue, probably a fight or a walkout. But I know Kyle. He wouldn't just leave without a word, not after everything we'd been through. That night, I was alone. I kept every light in the cabin on, sat in the middle of the room with a kitchen knife in one hand and Kyle's phone in the other. I didn't sleep. And at exactly 3 a.m., the power went out. Every light, every socket, total silence. And then footsteps on the porch, slow, deliberate. Each one creaking the wooden planks just enough to know someone was there. I couldn't breathe. I just sat there, eyes locked on the door. The knob jiggled, once, twice, then it stopped. And in the darkness, through the thin curtain of the front window, I saw them two eyes, glowing, watching me. No face, just the eyes. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stared back, too afraid to blink. After what felt like a full minute, the eyes disappeared. No footsteps walking away, just gone. The power came back on at 3:17 a.m. I left that place as soon as the sun rose. I've been driving ever since. No idea where I'm going. Just trying to stay ahead of it, whatever it is. But I don't think it matters anymore. Because no matter how far I go, it always finds me. Every second. Watch it. I thought maybe if I left everything behind, my phone, my ID, my current, wouldn't be able to find me. So I hitchhiked. I didn't care where the drivers were going. I just wanted distance, miles and miles of it. One guy dropped me off in a town so small it barely had a post office. The next day, I took a bus headed west. I stayed in hostels, truck stops, campgrounds, anywhere cheap enough that I could pay cash and leave without being remembered. But none of it worked. No matter where I went, it followed. And it got smarter. It stopped showing itself. It stopped leaving marks. Instead, it made me question everything. The motel TV would switch on in the middle of the night, only static. I'd wake up to my shoes sitting by the front doorway. Once, I locked all the windows, blocked the door with a dresser, and slept with a baseball bat beside me. I still woke up with dirt on my sheets, pine needles in my socks, like I'd gone outside, or like something had brought the outside in. I stopped trying to explain it. Then, 2 nights ago, I got desperate. I found an old internet cafe, bought an hour of time and logged into a burner email ID set up a few weeks earlier. I searched every forum I could think of, a paranormal, urban legends, even conspiracy sites. I didn't know what I was looking for, just someone who'd been through the same thing. That's when I found the thread. The title was simple, "Something Watches Me Every Night." I clicked. The user had only posted once, months ago, but the description was almost word for word what I'd been experiencing. The footsteps, the scratching, the photos, the mirrors, and the eyes. They called it the Watcher That Remembers. According to the poster, it wasn't human. It wasn't even a spirit, not in the traditional sense. It was more like a parasite, one that latched on to people who noticed it. People who looked too long at something they shouldn't have. A reflection, a dark window, an empty hallway. That's how it starts. It watches, and once you know it's watching, it never stops. The post ended with a warning. Don't try to run. Don't try to fight. Don't try to expose it, because once you speak its presence aloud, it listens harder. I logged off, and when I turned to leave the cafe, I saw a woman in the corner. She was staring at me, not just in the casual, curious way. It was intense, cold, focused. She didn't blink. I pretended not to notice, but I felt her eyes follow me all the way out. When I glanced back through the window, she was gone. That night, I tried something different. I didn't hide. I left the blinds open, turned all the lights off, sat in a chair facing the window. I waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. Around 2:45 a.m., the room grew colder, like the warmth had been sucked out of the air. And that's when I saw it. Not outside, not in the hallway, in the reflection of the turned-off TV screen. Standing behind me, tall, almost touching the ceiling, a black silhouette with no clear edges, like smoke trapped in the shape of a person, and those eyes still glowing, but dimmer, like they were buried under layers of dust or ash. It wasn't moving. It was just watching me, and somehow I knew it had been doing that for hours, maybe all day, maybe longer. I didn't turn around. I didn't move. I just sat there, heart pounding, throat dry. Then, slowly, it raised one arm. Its hand pressed against the back of my chair. I felt the weight of it, cold and heavy. My breath hitched. It leaned in, and though it didn't speak, I heard something in my head, a thought, but not my own. You see? Now, that's all it said, Dart. Then the weight vanished. I turned around. Nothing was there. The room was empty, but the air hadn't warmed. The shadows hadn't shifted. It was like time had frozen while it watched, and only now had released me. I checked my phone. 3 a.m. I didn't sleep that night. This morning, I found something under the bed, an envelope. It wasn't there the night before. I'm sure of it. Inside was a single photograph of me, asleep, in that same chair. And behind me, just barely visible in the photo's shadowy blur, was that same silhouette, standing over me, watching. The picture was dated. It was taken 2 days before I arrived at this motel. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that's possible. But I know this. No, it doesn't follow you in the way you think. It doesn't move behind you like a stalker. It doesn't chase. It waits. It remembers. And it reaches through time in ways we can't understand. So if you ever feel like someone's watching you then when you're alone, they might not be behind you. They might already be inside the room.